You can just start. You can just start something. You don't have to have it all planned out, all figured out. You don't even have to have the best equipment ever. I mean, if you've seen my video versions of my podcast and you're not listening on Spotify or whatever, then you know that most of the time the quality as far as video and audio and stuff goes, like I've got a microphone right now. I'm speaking into my headphones because my phone microphone sucks, and I'm just speaking to my phone right now. But most of the time, I have like a really broken but still usable A7 III and a Yeti, blue microphone, and I'm just doing the thing, and that's, I guess, what I wanted to talk about today on this Monday Musing is that you can just start. You don't have to have a big plan. You don't have to have all the best technologies. A lot of times it's not worth it to invest a ton of money into something that you're not sure is going to work out anyway. Like, I think it's actually unwise to invest in a ton of, podcast equipment if you haven't even put the reps in or had any, success already anyway, right? Like, I know that it's relatively easily accessible to get this stuff these days. And if you just have a bunch of, fun money to throw around, why not go for it? I mean, more power to you. But if you don't have a ton of extra cash on hand, then why would you spend a ton of money on a big studio or whatever and maybe suck at it or maybe hate it, right? So I spent a couple years doing videography for a few different companies and I relatively enjoyed it, but honestly by the end of it I was like, this ain't for me, dog. This isn't what I want to do long term. But I started. I just did it. And for me, it required a more radical jump because, I had to quit my job and move into a van and just leave Indiana and go live in Wyoming and Montana and all that stuff. And it all worked out. The Lord provides and He guides. And, one thing that Bama podcast talks about when it comes to Jacob, the patriarch of Israel, he didn't get it all right, but he started. He was doing things, and it's easier for God, as they mention, it's easier for the Lord to redirect a boulder that's already moving than it is to get a boulder to move in the first place, because it's probably stuck in the ground and you have to dig it out and then move and then convince it to move. And if it's already moving downhill, it's easier to just redirect it, right? I think that's the same thing with us. I think that's true. I think the Lord really does prefer when we just get going, and if we're going the wrong direction, He'll just redirect us. And whether that's through the slamming of doors in our face or just subtle redirections by, Him just speaking to us in some way, whatever it may be. I think that sometimes that's, honestly, maybe more than just sometimes, I think more of the time than not, we should just do and see and, not throw wisdom to the wind or anything like that. Not, do things that we know is probably really dumb and not going to work out. But try stuff, man. With this podcast thing, like, I kind of know what I'm doing, but I don't really know what I'm doing, right? I was watching videos on, what's working on YouTube right now, and it's stuff like this, people just talking to the camera, about the things that they're passionate about, things that they are maybe experts in or, fields that they've worked in for a long time. And that's essentially what I'm doing here. I'm talking about things that I'm passionate about, and I'm relatively knowledgeable on biblical things, and so I can talk about those things and have people on that know better than me on certain subjects or whatever. But, it's not like I've had conversations yet with massively influential people. To be fair, there's a couple people that are like a little bit influential that are coming up soon, but not some of the big names that I've had in my head because, I'm not there yet, and that's okay. Right now, this is practice, Anybody that's started anything sucks at it at first. And not to say that I'm like bad, but like I'm not great at this thing yet, and I'm still learning. I'm kind of still throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, like these Monday musings or the Wednesday things. I just was sort of inspired. Like I said, I was watching a video about what's working on YouTube right now, and I was just doing the full long form podcasts. Then I realized, well, I'm not working right now. I'm still on disability. And I have a little bit of time. I might as well start uploading smaller clips to YouTube and see what happens. And so these came from that. I'm cutting down little clips from the podcast and posting those as separate clips because people are more willing to sometimes digest a 20-minute clip over an hour and a half podcast, right? So just little ideas, man. Like think about things that, like in your vein of inspiration that you're wanting to pursue. Think about the little things that you can do to make it just kind of to give it a little bit better odds, I guess. Not that I'm chasing success, but if it's not that I'm doing this just to do it. I'm doing it because I feel called to it, and I would like some measure of success. People to listen to these podcasts and take something from it. And if I genuinely believe that the Lord is calling me to do something, then I may as well try things. Maybe up my odds of being seen by the person, and I think that's just biblical. Like, put forth effort. I'm not chasing success, but I'm putting forth effort. And hopefully from that effort, whoever needs to hear a particular word on a particular day will find it and won't be turned off to the fact that a podcast is an hour and a half long and they've never listened to that podcast before. They don't know if they're going to like it, but give them a 20-minute video clip from it, and maybe they'll listen to the whole thing, and they'll go and listen to the rest of the podcast afterwards because they were inspired by it. I don't know. But the point of this is that you have the freedom to just try things. I think more often than not, we're in the Christian community, we're waiting for a word of the Lord to like decide what to do. And I'm convinced that more often than not, with more people than not, he isn't just going to give a grand do this now, word to people. I think more often than not, he's going to give you passions and allow you to figure out that passion as you go. Now, not saying that he doesn't want to do it with you. I think he absolutely does, but it's more that he's probably going like a father, going like, what do you want to do today? And let's get good at this thing today. Or like maybe sometimes he'll give an inspiration of like, let's try to do this today. And if you're too worried about failing, then you're not going to do it. And that's not the right approach either, right? Because on some level, I don't know what I'm doing. And if you're listening to this, then clearly I'm doing something right? And that's the point, is that you try and you sharpen, the edge of your skill, and you sharpen your tools. I become more eloquent as time goes on. I'm better at processing things. I study things enough that I can regurgitate them so that I'm not looking like an absolute idiot when I say something ridiculous. There have been times in the past where I'll post something on Facebook or Instagram where somebody calls me out and I'm like, crap, I don't have my receipts. And so doing things like this, it teaches me those lessons to sort of try to have my receipts in hand when I'm ready to, discuss something controversial possibly. But I don't know, man. I just felt like this was something that I should share today. Whether it be the Lord inspiring me to it or me just thinking about things that I could talk about, I don't know. But hopefully it inspires you at least a little bit to just try things. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to be perfect at it. You don't even have to have the best equipment. And you can still just do the thing. And maybe it'll work out. And if it doesn't work out, then it'll at the very least be a lesson. If nobody ever listens to these podcasts, then I will have practiced discussing hard topics with people. And maybe down the line, the Lord will give me a different opportunity where that skill is needed. But also maybe this goes somewhere and people will eventually look back on these days of the podcast and go, oh, that was a little cringy, but like, it's a good podcast now, right? Who knows? Who knows? So that's what I guess I wanted to talk about today. Just don't be afraid to try things, and don't be afraid to suck at it. And try to find different ways to, accomplish your goal, right? I think being creative is a part of what God's given to us. So that creativity is a process, The best painters in the world don't start out the best painters in the world. The best podcasters out there don't start off as, the best podcasters ever. They started somewhere and they probably sucked early on, but they get there eventually. And even if they didn't suck early on, they didn't have a lot of listeners. So they weren't quote unquote successful early on. I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm basically hammering this nail a little past, its depth, but that's what I wanted to share today. I hope you're having a great Monday, and God bless. Talk to you later. Peace.